All right, Hector, it's good to have you here, man. Thanks for taking the time to sit with me um, and have a little chat. How you doing today?
Excellent. How about yourself?
Good. I'm really good. I you know, I'm I'm really grateful for like us meeting and for meeting you and everything that like you brought into my life. You do a lot to really help the indigenous community, and you're very connected to a lot of indigenous peoples around. And I just wanted to express my gratitude for all the teachings that you provide through the Harmony Keepers and everything that I've kind of learned since I met you. It's really helped me out a lot. How long have you been doing these kind of teachings? How long has that been your path now?
Well, I first have to say, Aleancho, um, Loca Hector Perez Pacheco. Uh, um, I'd just like to say hello, everyone. My name is Hector Perez Pacheco. I'm a Quechua native from the Confederation Tahuantinsuyo, and I've been very blessed to learn from my family, my culture, my heritage of my people. The Quechua people were in South America. The Confederation Tahuantinsuyo is four federations that reaches from half of Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, part of Chile, part of Argentina. And my family is directly descended from Cusco um, on my father's side, which is was the center of our which is the center of our confederation of Tahuantinsuyo. Um, I have the great privilege of having my grandparents in my life, both on my mother's side and my father's side. And my grandfather Alfredo was very involved in sharing with me the philosophies of my people, and as well as my parents. Um, and through that, gave me the foundation of who I am as a person. Um, and also being blessed as a little boy um, to go to Cusco, to go to Machu Picchu, to go and learn the um, the teachings of my people. As a child, you know, my grandfather would point and said, "We built all this, and this is how we built it, and this is what we did, and this is how we do it, and so on and so forth." So, he spent a lot of time in making sure that I was ambassador for my people, to be able to share the knowledge and wisdom and teachings, despite all the racism that took place in Peru among indigenous people. Yeah,
Hmm.
and then even within the U.S., there was so much racism. I grew up in a little town called Pittsburgh, California, in the East Bay. We're the only Quechua community, and um, we were constantly working with other communities because and sharing our culture and our heritage to them, and because we believe, like many of our nations and tribes, we believe that we're all relatives around the world, and we see each other as relatives. We help each other, we work with each other, we support each other, and that's how I was raised, through those teachings that we're all relatives. Even throughout the Star Nation, those are our relatives. So when we see people coming from one place to the other, and we see that they don't know where they're coming to, then we're going to help them because that's our nature. That's how we've been since the beginning of time. Uh, Despite that, the we were treated differently, and we
Hmm.
continue to be treated differently. Um, but nevertheless, we are. we stay true to our teachings, and so when you ask me the questions, how long have I been teaching? I would say I guess I would say back. I would say respond to that is how long have I been learning? And I've been learning for 60 years. I just turned 60 on Friday. And
Happy birthday, man. Happy
thank
birthday.
you, thank you. Just turned 60. But
Wow.
yeah. But to be concretely, I mean, teaching and learning. We have to really learn something. You have to teach it. It's important to teach it. So I guess the answer would be over 40 years. You know,
Yeah. Did you like when you were growing up in California, were you really connected to uh the the Quechua people already from an early age, or did you kind of grow up more in like California reality, like trying to be more integrated into like I don't know, you know, like what was your community like very mixed, or were sort of more very connected to your people from an early age?
I think I would say both. Okay, I grew up in Northern California within the 70s and the 80s, so I did have that California experience,
Mhm.
growing up. But we didn't have a large Quechua community where I grew up. We're only Quechua family there. But we would go to Peru every I don't know, every year, every other year, and we will have that experience there. And and then also my grandfather would teach us about martial arts and in the backyard among many other things. And so I kind of Peru was the Quechua the teachings would come to me, and it was very really focused on the significance of our philosophies, our values, our principles, our stories,
Mhm.
our cultural understanding. So looking at it back then is like I was responsible to carry notebooks and take down all the information of everything that was being told to me, and then I would have to reiterate it back to my grandfather Alfredo. Matter of fact, I want to show you a picture of him. Okay,
Yeah.
this is this is him right here
Oh,
with the hat.
nice.
Yeah, and that's my father, Victor Hector Perez Pacheco. My grandfather, I found out his name is Antonio Alfredo Perez Pacheco.
Antonio.
Yeah, Antonio. Yeah. And so
Cool.
when I wasn't paying too much attention, see those big knuckles? Give me little
Yeah.
love taps in the back, on top of the head. So I got a bunch of love taps right here. You can see.
Got a lot of love taps.
Like, hey, pay
Did
attention.
you No,
So
that's
I will pay attention because he was telling me all kinds of stories that were passed on from generation to generation to generation. He
did
spoke my
you
he spoke my language. And, yeah.
did you sort of like go through a period of rejecting that kind of heritage? Like, I mean, I know it's really common, I guess, like in American teenagers, right? Like where you just kind of like go through that period of sort of rejecting where you came from or rejecting your parents or just, it's kind of rejecting your heritage maybe. Did you go through a period like that in your upbringing, or were you sort of always like embracing this? Or was there a period where
Well,
you were kind of like
that's
denying
an
it?
excellent question because the time that I grew up, television was very prevalent. It was like the Brady's family, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
The Gilligan's Island, all the programs that were around you. I mean, you couldn't avoid it. I mean, you go to school, you had lunch pails, you have backpacks, the world evolved around the television, and so I mean, all the discussions at school were like, did you see that program with the program that took place the night before, and you would see how the kids will stop playing sports so they could go see a program, and in that program they were programming us, that programming,
Yeah.
and so my I would at times I would like within my culture we're entrepreneurs, we're business people, we've been business people since the beginning of time, and so we have my father and my mother had a business, and it was a thriving business, and my brothers and I were learning about our business because we were going to have our own businesses,
Yeah.
and so while where kids were playing, we were working on my parents' business, clothing business, and so and my younger brother would say, Mom, Dad, we want to go play, and I said, no, we have to work on the business. But my parents found it time for us so we can go play sports, and actually they sponsor a soccer team called the Incas. We were,
Oh yeah.
and so my dad was the coach, my grandpa was assistant coach, and I was the trainer, or something or another, and so they believed in sports, they believe in giving back to the community. It's part of our philosophy of the Chacana, which is this symbol here.
Hmm.
This is the Chacana symbol. In each aspect of the Chacana, there was a teaching. So the first teaching is love. That's the first teaching is love. So so where we learn love, we learn it through the family. So
Mm.
when we would we were living in Pittsburgh, in a suburb of San Francisco, Oakland area. Um, it was very, uh, com- like every community was kind of separate in a way, but together, and so we would had to interact. So we would learn from each other in the communities, and but it was there was there's a high number of activities that would encourage that in the little town of Pittsburgh. Now, when we would go outside of Pittsburgh, like Concord or Waterqueek or Antioch, there was a lot of racism. So much that they were burn crosses in the mountains there, and
Wow.
they would have flyers to recruit for the skinheads and things like that. And so we would, and there was a lot of police brutality all the time, and I've been a victim of that when I was growing up, and so, but because I would go to Peru on a consistent basis, I would feel the love of the family, the love of the
Yeah.
community, love of the neighbors, love of all that. And then when I come back to Pittsburgh, I feel that same love, but it was different people from different nationalities. Like they had a strong Italian community of Pittsburgh, and I felt
Yeah.
a lot of love. Filipino community, they had a African American community. Just there was just a lot of different communities that we were always were connected from one way to the other. But
Yeah.
yes, the answer to your question is that, yeah, I would tell my parents, hey, can I go play? And say, yeah, you could go play, but first you need to do this, okay? And then they always wanted to make sure we had a balance in life. But my
Yeah.
brothers were a little bit more, uh, you know, they were, they,
Rebellious, maybe.
yeah, yeah, a little bit more rebellious, especially my brother Richard. I know he probably wouldn't want me to mention him, but yeah, he would change his hair color every once in a while, and then
Yeah.
give my dad a cow,
Exactly. Well, I mean, it's really common in like my dad was first generation Italian American, and like we have very big Italian family on his side, and it's pretty common is in a lot of immigrant families to have the first generation of kids kind of reject their heritage, you know what I mean? Like that's a very American thing. And I had some friends that were like, really Greek, and they were like, it's just my dad. That's not me, that kind of thing. So a lot of people, I think a lot of people struggle with that, and I think that's sort of created a bit of an identity crisis, honestly, in this country, where people don't really. I mean, one of the things that I've experienced in my interaction with the indigenous community is exactly kind of what you did at the beginning of this podcast, which was to introduce your heritage, exactly where you came from, your full name, your parents' names, acknowledging your ancestors right from the beginning. And I don't think that's the most common. That's just like a mindset maybe that isn't really a part of a lot of people's consciousness. They're not automatically aware or acknowledging, "Hey, this is where I came from." I remember I met this Hopi woman. I don't remember her name. I was really young, and I was on a train across the country, and I said something to her, like I was all hippie. And I said something to her that was like, she was like, "Well, where do you come from?" And I was like, "Oh, I come from the world because we're all one," or so I said something like that. And she kind of scolded me, and she said, "Well, it's good to feel the love connection, but acknowledge where the other person is from." So
Um, yeah,
acknowledging the kind of background that everybody has is really important to like say, okay, I see you. Hector Pacheco grew up in Pittsburgh from Quechua family. Like I see you for who you are. Um, and I think that's something that is sort of missing for a lot of young people, really a lot of people in this country.
yeah. Well, because I grew up with understanding of the Chicana and the teachings of the Chicana, and the first teaching is love. Um, I also understood and experienced hate. And as and and my parents, being that they also experienced that. My father, when he first came to the country, he came on his kind of his rites of passage. He had his business in Peru, the travel agency, and him and his friend wanted to explore the U.S. during the time period of 1960, and he landed in Miami, Florida, and then him and his friend Ronaldo bought a car and just drove across country, and not understanding what was taking place in 1960 in the South, where he went into a restroom and he couldn't read English, and he went to a white only restroom, and he was taken from that restroom out to,
Wow.
to go to another restroom. And then he ended up going to a hotel, and it said no blacks, Mexicans, or dogs. And he said, "Well, we're Peruvian, so I guess we can stay here." And they said, "No, you can't stay here. You guys are Mexican. No, we're from Peru." And there was a whole situation like that. And but then throughout the time period of the '60s, he went on to um, went to college. He went to Northwestern. He went to Chicago Community College and Northwestern University,
Mhm.
and then he brought my mother up, and then I was born in Evanston, Illinois, Chicago, Evanston, Illinois. And then my father, when he finished Northwestern, he got his degree in accounting, um, and he landed a job in the city of Oakland as a controller of the city of Oakland, the first brown person as a city controller, due to all the activism that was taking place in the city of Oakland, the city of San Francisco, and Berkeley, at the universities. And so and when he ended up in the city of Oakland, he brought my family out. We lived in Berkeley, And I remember as kids, we would drive down the street, and they were streaking at the time, and they were running down the street, and my mom will try to close our eyes. Somebody would walk around streaking, running around streaking. It was funny at the time.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah, yeah.
crazy.
And so my dad, he he was responsible for the finance of the city of Oakland, but at the same time, he was also responsible for the funding that was for the community action grants, which was funded during that time period of the Kennedy and Johnson period. Okay, and some of the funding went to different groups in the communities. One was the
Mhm.
Black Panther Party,
Oh wow.
and the Black Panther Party was coordinating the breakfast program, and and so he trained the women for the Black Panther Party to learn how to manage the books and do the finances of the
Wow.
books, and he gave them classes because he understood, being a brown man in America, and the challenges and the poverty and all the things that took place. So their books were absolutely excellent. And when the Black Panthers went to Sacramento and protested over the police abuse that was taking place in the communities, Ronald Reagan said, "Well, he met them and he called upon my father and said, "Well, show me in these books that they're misappropriating funds." And he said, "No, these books are excellent. Everything that is being utilized by the people's money is getting to the people." So he could not defund that program. Now that breakfast
Yeah.
program went out throughout the country.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and to this day, there's a breakfast program for communities that are high need. I serve as the chairman of the LA County Community Action Board, and we now provide funding from the federal government to 37 nonprofit organizations throughout LA County. That is part of the block grant monies that my father was involved with. And
So that's still kind of his legacy that you're
yes,
helping to manage. That's awesome.
yeah, yeah. So, I'm commissioner for Supervisor Hilda Solis for the first district, and we are. I've been a commissioner for her for, geez, I forgot how many years, maybe 12 years, I believe. And I've been the chairman for past 3 years, 3 4 years, and we serve it. We're the second largest block grant funded program through the country, and we're providing resources for families, thousands of families, and that's part of the Chacana. In this spot right here, it's called Ai. Ai means reciprocity. So we have a responsibility as humans, as people, is to give back,
To
to be
give back.
involved,
Yeah.
and to help, to volunteer. And my mother, Julia um, Medina Leon, she was involved as the president of the Spanish speaking council for the city of Pittsburgh, where they would provide programs for the community to help the community. And so she was very much involved with of helping families that were underserved. And so that was something else that I learned through my culture, is that we need to get back to the community. So and that's what I've been doing, um, as an adult, is helping the community in all the different ways that the community needs to be helped in.
Yeah. That I mean that's a lot of hold on one second. My daughter's over here. I'm sorry, Hector. Hey, can you go talk to Anthony? Huh? I can't hear you. Okay, well, go get. You can have some. But go ask Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry, Hector. Oh, sorry about that. Are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, great. Sorry about that. Yeah. My kids are here, and my daughter really wanted some of these breadsticks and she couldn't find them. So, um, that's, but speaking of
Well, that's
feeding,
important.
speaking of feeding the people in need, so that's really amazing. Like, you have
Uh-huh.
been really helping all of these in more underprivileged communities. Are you mainly focused now in the LA region with that work, or are you all over California, or like where exactly are you?
No,
Is
well,
the foundation that you're working with?
well,
Is it
I live in Los Angeles.
okay? Yeah.
Yeah, I live in Los Angeles. I've been living here for, geez, I don't know, 33 years, 34 years. And I have my business. It's called Perez Pacheco Consulting. And, um, and we're a strategy firm. We provide strategies for a wide range of businesses, um, and companies and tribes and schools and all sorts of entities. Well, part of we have our four stages of life. Within the four stages of life, um, we we believe that we come from the universe to this physical form to make a difference, and we come from
Yeah.
the star nation to here. And so when the my Quechua medicine man threw out the coca leaves and read the coca leaves,
Mm.
it told me that I had to do two things. One is to uh, bring light. So everything I do, I need to bring light. And the second is that I need to is to work with the youth. And so that's what I've been doing. So through my business, through my nonprofit, through my commission, through
Hmm.
the other entities that I work with, I that's what I do. I bring light. And so within my firm, we help entities from Canada all the way to South America, from the East Coast to the West Coast, and in between. Um, and I have a great team of people. I have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, about 10 individuals that work for me, that work together, that we work together in doing that work. And we're multicultural, just like our world, and
Yeah.
we make the biggest difference. And we
So
have
how do you
highly
interpret that? Like,
professional individuals.
how do you interpret that bringing light? Is that shining the light of knowledge, information, awareness, or is that like bringing, like, what does that mean, bringing the light to you? What exactly does that?
Well, it's for us. It's like for within the culture, Quechua culture, we have our different ceremonies, and one ceremony is called Inti Raymi ceremony, our sun ceremony. And I encourage everybody to go to that in Cusco. I don't know if you have you attended, Anthony, that
No,
ceremony, Inti Raymi ceremony in Cusco.
no, no.
No,
I'd
okay.
love to.
What's up? It's a beautiful, beautiful ceremony. Yeah, yeah. And so we honor Tata Inti, Father Sun, and so we believe that we're the children of the sun. And being that we're children of the sun, what the energy of the sun is to bring that light, or bring that awareness, or bring that consciousness, or advocate, uh, doing being an agent of change, making a difference. So within um, my purpose in life is I incorporate the philosophies of my people. And so one is we have here the snake, the puma, and the condor. The snake is the past, the puma is the present, and condor is the future. And so within this teaching is that we learn what the past is. So when I work with clients or other entities, we always remember the past, but we don't live in the past. We live in the present. The condor of the puma is living right now. Where Cusco is in a shape of a puma because it's important that we live today. The condor is one that we plan for the future. Is one who flies as closest to the sun and sees the future. And so as uh, uh, as a uh, um, as a child of the sun, is that we're looking towards what that future entails, and we think of the seven generations to come. You know, the children's grand. You know, the seven more generations, and understanding that is that we want to make the world a better place. And each
Mm.
one of us has a role in making this world a better place. So once you find out your purpose in life, which is not a job, your job is not to be an attorney or a doctor or yeah, that's a job. Your purpose is to, for instance, if a doctor is to heal, an attorney is
Mm.
to advocate. It's a greater purpose than just just to provide a livelihood. So,
Yeah.
so answering your question about in terms of bringing light, looking at companies, looking at entities that as we cross our paths, as we're working with them to help them achieve their objectives.
Yeah, I've heard that those same kind of entities before the serpent or the snake and the puma and the condor. Actually, when I was doing like I was doing an ayahuasca ceremony in in LA. In fact, it was like in downtown LA at this with this community, this group. I think it was through the Daime. Is that uh, do you have any experience with that whole, like, what is your take on kind of the whole ayahuasca ceremony kind of movement? Is that originating from your culture as well, those ceremonies? And is that
Yeah,
something
yeah, yeah.
how do you
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Well, for that ceremony to, you have to have a support system.
Mhm.
You have to be in touch with your family. You have to be in touch with your elders. You have to stay in touch with your culture. You have to have a really good support system for that to really be able to help you. Um, because even the one that's leading the ceremony, they need to be in touch. You really can't escape your ancestors. When I was fifth grade, when I was in fifth grade, I was held back a year, and the teacher, his name was Mr. Brown. He would go and say little remarks here and there, and I was mocked, and I didn't know that at the time I was dyslexic, and so I was taken from so when that I I told my father, this man keeps saying these remarks. Now, prior to my father um, coming to the United States, he was in the Peruvian military. He was the first commando unit that was trained by the CIA. So he saw the most ugliest things that a person can see and experience, and he just did his term and he got out of the military. So some really ugly things that he experienced, and really ugly things that he had to do. And and so when I was told that, and my father addressed the teacher, and so we're going to take you. He told me and my brothers, we're going to take you to another school. So we went to a Sicilian school, an Italian school in Pittsburgh called St. Peter Martyr, and And one of the as he came to that school, and the first question that I remember him telling the principal at the time, Mr. Sino, he said he asked him, "Do you all practice love?" And he said, "Most definitely. You know, we love everybody." Okay. Well, this is the school for my kids, and I have to tell you, the Sicilian people are beautiful, beautiful people. They loved us to death. They're also a little loud too. I got to say, you know, we were playing basketball. We can hear them. You know, Mister
That's
Aiello,
funny.
man. The food was delicious, and they worked with us. They worked with me,
Mm.
and they helped me. You know, I didn't know I had dyslexia until I went to the university,
Mm.
and they helped me get from, from they helped. I mean, after school, and they would say "Babino," they would say different things in Italian, and and like the food was delicious. Mangia, mangia, Babino, and you have to eat. It was when buongiorno. So I would learn
Yeah.
all these words and all this the dances. It was all really cool, and they helped me. They helped me and my brothers, and I was able to go on to the high school, Pittsburgh High School, and then I went to a full ride to Santa Clara University, and majored in engineering. And I was citizen of the year. I was student of the year of the city of Pittsburgh, and I came out on the front page of the newspaper. And I took that newspaper to Mr. Brown, and I dropped it. I dropped a whole stack on his front door. He opened the door. He looked at it. He looked at me, and he just walked away. and and uh, and I think that it's, for those that are looking for their spirit, looking for their purpose in life. Yeah, definitely the ceremony of ayahuasca would help. But if you need to have that love around you, like
Hmm.
I did, in my junior high school at St. Peter Martyr, with my teachers, they were
Yeah.
not Quechua, they were Sicilian, but what we shared together was love, and we need to have that more in our world. So if that individual that is sharing is sincere, that is doing this ceremony for you or for anyone else, and you have the right support system, because it's not meant for a person's daily consumption. It's meant to happen once in life, or twice in life, or three times in life, but not
Hmm.
more than that. Because
Yeah.
and a lot of times you don't need it, because you have direction, you have purpose, you have guides. But
Hmm.
those, because we live in this society where that's non-existent, then it provides you an insight. And as people, we love to share. We love to share who we are, and what we're about, and it helps us find our way. Ultimately, I've done the ceremony. You see the ancestors, you see the spirit guides, you everything that you have internally comes out. Um, and it's important to have that support network so that you're able to
Hmm.
find your place and find your purpose and live your purpose.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, it's I talk about this sometimes about how we have this kind of idea that the world's against us. There's a sort of like the mindset of the world's against me, or people are against me, like people that kind of initially fear new people that they meet, or they're questioning everybody's intentions. There's a sort of like built-in distrust for everything. And I think a lot of people get trained that way because it's like, oh, you got to be careful, protect your stuff, take care of your own stuff, watch out for other people. Everyone's out to get you. It's a competitive world. It's a dog eat dog world, whatever, survival of the fittest, et cetera, et cetera. All this kind of mindset compiles, and people sort of grow up in this with this idea that they have to fight for everything that's theirs. And then there's this kind of other mindset where you believe the world is just made out of love, and that nature's there to support you unconditionally, that the earth is there to love you unconditionally. and that you're always surrounded by love. You're always surrounded by, you know, belonging. You do belong here. You are here, et cetera, et cetera. And that's something that I've had. Uh, I'm grateful for my mother for bringing that to my awareness. My father, like I said, was Italian and came from a really exactly what you're describing, Southern Italian, Napolitan, not Sicilian, but loud and very loud people, very laughing. Manja, manja, I got it. But and my mom came, her heritage.
Yeah.
My mom's heritage is very different, very American. She was born in Texas, and her a great grandmother was Apache, and we think she was a slave actually, but my great grandfather married her, and then my mom had this very old Americana kind of um, heritage. Her whole lineage went back to like really old first settlers kind of thing, in the United States, and so she found her connection to more of her indigenous heritage later on in her life and really brought that to me. And I think through work her teachings to me, and also she got really into Tibetan Buddhism, and so she brought the Tibetan monks to live with us a couple times in the house, and I learned from them. And it's really through that influence from my mom, I developed this belief in my early 20s, that this was all made out of, that the earth was really a place of love. And I think that's really guided me. And I think I took that for granted for a lot of years, to be honest. Like, I think I just sort of was like, okay, yeah, everything's love, and everything works out for me. And it always does. Um, but that's just a mindset that I got graced with, or that I got blessed with early on. And I think a lot of people struggle with the opposite, where they just feel like everything's against them, and they're afraid, and there's a lot of fear and a lot of hatred. Um, how I don't know. I mean, I struggle with that a little bit, like how to reach out to people to bring that awareness, that kind of awareness of love. Maybe it's easier if it comes directly from your family, or if it comes directly from your community. But what do you do if it's not? Um, you say you work with kids a lot. Do you do you have that experience with the youth, that people feel that way, like they're just kind of growing up and everything's against them and they're fighting?
Yeah, well, what I do, when I first came out to Los Angeles, while I was working in Sacramento, I worked in public policy, I worked on legislation, and then I worked there for 3 years, and I saw how a lot of the advocates were coming up and sharing with the elected officials on bills that became laws. And I really wanted to experience what it was to work with the grassroots in the community. So when I came to LA, I worked with the grassroots. I worked in the early 90s with the gangs in the West Side, West LA, and West area. And I, I saw a lot of that. I saw a lot of fighting. I saw a lot of shootings, and the places. But what I did is what I learned, and it was that share these teachings, share the teachings. My mother, she died when my freshman year in college, and she died of cancer. And before she died, she said, "I want you to establish something that will last forever." So that was a riddle for me, because I was like, "What will last forever?" Through time, through learning from elders and others, I learned that what lasts forever are teachings. And so I started sharing those teachings with the communities that I started working with in Culver City, in Santa Monica, West LA, uh, um, Venice, and we did a peace treaty. I was involved in a peace treaty for the West Side, and I was providing them information. I would print out, articles or print out symbols of the Quechuas, and there were a lot of individuals there from the Jalisco area or from the area of the Zapotec area, Zapotec natives. And Jalisco is more of like the Mexica, Azteca people. And so I would
Mhm.
provide information that would connect to them. And that information helped connect to them to see that they're not each other's enemies and that they have more in common than they do have in differences. So I started in one community and I started working in another community and I started working in another community, and I started meeting with the leadership and they started understanding the same thing. They start seeing how that they view that they're, they even have family members that lived at the next area that are relatives to
Mhm.
them, and they started seeing themselves going to these funerals and people were dying, that it really didn't make sense. And
Yeah.
so that led to the peace treaty. But it's building consciousness, it's building light. And once you have
Mhm.
consciousness and light, you're able to make things happen.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I mean, well, that's amazing work that you're doing. I love that riddle from your mother too, something that lasts forever, and it's really these teachings. Are you are you working to like write these teachings down or put them all together in like a book, or how are you sort of putting these teachings together? And is that something that
Well,
is
we have.
oh, sorry, you go.
Go ahead, Anthony.
Oh, I
No,
was gonna
it's a good question.
mhm. Sorry, there's a little delay. You can go. You
Go
can
ahead.
go.
All right. I think it's a good question. I mean, a lot of it you can see. You if you type up Chacana, you'll see those teachings on the internet. The snake, the puma, the condor, the all those that are. I mean, they're not my teachings; they're my ancestors' teachings, and all
Mhm.
I'm doing is sharing those teachings and practicing those teachings. And then we have other teachings that are learned from other tribes and other nations, and then we're also of service too. So we're also providing support and help and supporting others that are doing excellent work, like Chief Overlooking Horse. He has this peace and prayer date, so we go and support him and help him. Um, and then among other activities that are taking place within the community. We just a couple of weeks ago, we there was a lot of the small businesses are closing in Los Angeles, and so now there's a movement of small businesses that that are are wanting to elect officials to be involved, so that people could be more aware of that small businesses exist instead of the larger companies. And so there was a march in Eagle Rock. There was also a march in Highland Park. So these marches take place. So we go as the Harmony Keepers, and we go and help and protect the marches, and we provide the crowd control or the safety of the
Mhm.
people there.
That's beautiful.
But I know I have to conclude. I have a Yeah, but I just want to say, Anthony, I really appreciate your questions, your friendship. I want to just, in closing, say the laws of my people: Amakewa, Amayua, Amasua, and Amasuku. Amakewa means to not lie, and but it's the opposite. Is to be a person of your word, to keep your word, and your word means your responsibility as an individual, as a dad, as a brother, as a friend, as an uncle, as a grandfather, as a son, daughter, wife. That's important that we understand what our word is, and also understanding our capacity. Like our capacity is different now than it was before, but our commitment is still the same. That was our first law. The second one is amakewa amayua. Amayua means it's not to steal. But it's opposite is to give your 150%. So when you're out there doing something, whatever it is, give your 150%. Do that extra mile that you need to do to make things better. The third one is amakewa, amayo, amasua. Amasua means not to be lazy, but it's the opposite. It's to be strategic. How do you use strategy? What kind of strategy are you using to achieve your objectives, both within yourself, your family, your community, and always offer yourself to learn. Every day, I want to learn something new, and I want to humble myself. The way you humble yourself is to open yourself so you can learn. And the last one is amakewa, amayo, amasua, amasuko. Amasuko means not to gossip. You have a choice. You could be in darkness or you could be in light, or you could be in between, right? But I choose the light, and that means when we gossip is we put that negative energy out there. We speak bad about others, or we listen about others. And sometimes we do it within ourselves. We start speaking bad about ourselves to ourselves, and that limits us to reach our full potential. So I shared out that with everybody, for all your listeners, because that's a good way of living, good way of being, good way of doing things. So that Supaiki, Anthony, and again, thank you for this broadcast. And we have classes on Sundays from 10 to noon, and I'll send you the link, and everybody's welcome to attend. Um, and we share a lot of good teachings.
Thank you so much, Hector. Really appreciate the work you're doing. Really means a lot to me that you took this time today. So thanks so much, man. All right.
Peace and blessings. Thank you
Blessing.
for what you're doing.
Blessing.